All right, so today we're going to dive into something really fascinating. It's a spiritual teaching that's basically, well, it's a detailed manual for your soul after you die. And I'm not just talking about some abstract philosophy here. This is framed as a practical guidebook for that journey we're all eventually going to take. So let's get into it.
Okay, so right out of the gate, this teaching hits you with a pretty wild idea. One that basically challenges everything you've ever been taught. And it's this: the life you're living right now, this isn't the main event. Not even close. It's just a temporary stop. The real world, according to this, is the one that's waiting for us after we depart. So you can see how this just flips our usual values completely on their head. You've got the common view over here on the left, right? The idea that this world is all there is, and that your successes and failures, well, they define who you are. But then look at the right. This teaching gives us a totally different way to look at it. This world is just a training ground, a school for the soul. And in that school, it's the process of learning that matters, not the final grade you get.
So yeah, this one core idea really does turn our whole perspective upside down. Which actually brings us perfectly into our first section here, a world upside down. I mean, think about it. If this world is just temporary, then death can't possibly be the end, right? It just can't be. And so this teaching reframes it much more positively. It calls it a return home. It's a new beginning, not some tragic loss. It's more like a graduation than a termination. And if you see it that way, suddenly there's no real reason for regret. Okay, but this brings up a huge question. An obvious one, really. If all our successes and failures here on Earth don't really matter in the long run, then what's the point? Why are we even here? And the answer from this perspective is pretty clear. It's all about the soul's training. You know, maybe success is a lesson in overcoming pride, and maybe failure is a lesson in humility. They're just two different tools in the toolbox, both used for the exact same job, to polish the soul. The actual outcome here on Earth, completely irrelevant. So if life is the training course, then you could say that death is the final exam. And the biggest, trickiest question on that exam, according to this teaching, is all about overcoming our earthly attachments.
The key word here is a Japanese term, shuchaku. And what it means is this really deep, lingering attachment, a kind of fixation, on the people, the things, the emotions of the physical world. And this teaching is super clear about it. Shuchaku is the number one thing that causes a soul to suffer and keeps it from moving on.
And we're not talking about some abstract philosophical concept here. These are things we can all relate to, right? Worrying about your family, that big project at work you never got to finish, holding on to old grudges and resentments, or just deep, profound regrets. These are the anchors that literally weigh a soul down and keep it from moving forward. So the big question is, how on earth do you break free from these incredibly powerful emotional ties? Well, the solution proposed here is pretty radical. It's a total cognitive reset. You have to force yourself to realize that this world you're so attached to, it was basically just a temporary stage, a set built specifically for your soul's training. Okay, so how do you actually do that? How do you achieve that reset? Well, that brings us to the really practical part, the actual guidebook section of the teaching. It lays out the concrete steps for a soul who's just entered this new world. And right away, you're faced with a massive challenge. You're told you have to let go of, well, pretty much everything. All the knowledge, all the values you spent a whole lifetime building up. And you have to wonder, why? Why would you have to do that? The teaching gives us a really brilliant metaphor to explain this. Imagine all your earthly knowledge. Everything you learned, no matter how smart or successful you were, is a perfectly detailed map of Tokyo. Now, try using that map to find your way around London. It's useless, right? Worse than useless. It's just going to get you completely lost. So that leads to a very clear 3-step plan. Step 1, acknowledge you're in a new reality. You're in London now, not Tokyo. Step 2, you have to consciously throw away that old map, all that worldly knowledge. And step 3, you have to be humble enough to just listen. Listen to the guides who are right there, ready to help you. And it's really important to understand who these guides are. They're not some scary panel of judges there to decide your fate. No, the teaching describes them as compassionate helpers. Kind of like orientation leaders for a new freshman at college, They're there to welcome you, show you the ropes. The point is, help is always, always there for you. This whole mental shift, this technique, actually has a name. Kaishin no Genri, which translates to the principle of the open heart. And it's not a passive thing. It's not just a feeling. It's an active technique. It's you consciously and willfully
turning your mind away from that old, useless map and opening it up to the new truth that your guides are showing. And when you can do that, when you can truly open your heart, well, that brings us to the ultimate goal of this entire journey. It brings us to the real meaning of freedom.
Here is another great metaphor from the teaching. Think about all those attachments we talked about. The regrets, the worries, the old grudges. It's like driving a car, but you're constantly staring into the rearview mirror. You just can't move forward, can you? Not safely anyway. Not if you're always looking behind you. And that's why this teaching's definition of true happiness is so simple, but also so profound. True happiness is the soul's freedom. It's that state of being totally, completely unburdened by all the baggage of the past. And you can see how it all connects, right? It's a really tight, logical chain. If you can accept that first big idea, that this world is just a training ground, then everything else falls into place. It means your attachments are to something that was always temporary. So letting go of them isn't some kind of betrayal. It's just graduating. And that graduation ceremony, that's what leads directly to the soul's ultimate freedom, and finally, its happiness. But here's what's so fascinating to me. Even though this whole thing is presented as a guidebook for the dead, it ends up posing a really profound question for all of us, for the living. It's like this whole teaching is a giant mirror. By showing us what a soul needs to release after life is over, it forces us to look at ourselves and ask, okay, so what should I be holding on to so tightly? And what should I probably be letting go of right here, right now? And so, that's the final question this leaves us with. If every single experience you have, the joys, the sorrows, the successes, the failures, if all of it is just part of a curriculum designed for your soul's growth, what are you going to focus on today? And maybe, just maybe, the more important question is, what are you going to choose to finally let go of?